lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today, I have a really awesome indie cartoonist, somebody I've wanted to talk to for quite a while. I have Mr. James Coates on the channel of Dino Beasts fame. He's got a bunch of other cool projects he's been a part of, and he's got a new Kickstarter live right now, Galaxy God. So I'm very excited to have you on to talk some comics, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
So let's, I always do this, people, kind of like what started your love for comics, and let's hear your first comic too.
So my first comic was that Art Adams Long Shot miniseries,
Oh wow,
and
okay,
it's
cool.
like issue 5 with the big monster on the cover. So I mean, that's a crazy comic for your first comic because you open that thing up and it's just like it's hard to read, but the art's amazing. Like it's all over the place.
Hmm.
So that was my first comic, and at the same time, my brother got Elf Quest #4, where they're also fighting like the monster with the black cover. So like together, that was kind of the very first comics I ever saw. Yeah, I mean, so like my love of comics kind of came after my love of like Ninja Turtles and He Man and that sort of stuff was like my big thing early,
Hmm.
and then we got comics a little bit later after that. Kind of got a box and picked some up at like the 7-Eleven in Escondido, California. Yeah.
It's weird that you say that. I guess I never really correlate. Like, I guess Ninja Turtles was my first thing. I always just, I say my first comic, I go, what's that? But I guess
Yeah.
Turtles came first. Like that was
Yeah.
my first love because comics didn't come for like a couple years after. Like I was already watching Turtles. So yeah, great time to be a kid, dude. Like that
Yeah.
era. I don't
Oh
know. For
yeah.
me, it was. There was a lot of
Yeah.
cool stuff coming out.
Yeah. Turtles is like a gateway. It's like, that gateway that a lot of people don't correlate sometimes, because it's like the cartoon had the toys, had the bed sheets, started doing martial arts because of the turtles. And then later we get a box of comics from like a family friend. And
Hmm.
in it's like the OG Turtles, the Michael Zulli issues were like the first Ninja Turtles comics I saw, which are crazy. And you're like, what is going on here?
Hmm.
So it all kind of like follows a pattern, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because like you hear like I hear people of a certain generation call out the Adam West Batman show, right? And
Yeah.
then people probably around our age sometimes call it Batman animated series. But I'm like,
Hmm.
well, Turtles was a comic first too, like, and it just doesn't. This is the first time I've ever connected those dots. Yeah, I didn't even know there was like the Mirage Turtle series till I was in middle school. So like that was like I knew there was Turtle comics because the Archie stuff was always like super
Yeah.
available, right? But I remember going through and they had like this like kid section, right? And there was a stack of the Archie Turtles, and I was like, oh, I'll look through those real quick. And I kept going, and I started going back. I'm like, I see the Mirage in the kids section, dude. And I'm like, what is this Turtles comic? And I start flipping through it was the fourth printing of #1, the Mirage. You're just sitting
Wow.
there, cover price. And I'm like flipping through it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I grabbed it and I took it home and I went back later that day because it was like a 5-minute walk from my house. And I grabbed the rest of the ones they had. And I was just like, I remember being just like blown away. Like, I can't believe this is Ninja Turtles. This is before the cartoon because I looked at the date, I'm like, insane. Yeah, Michael Zulli, the Rick Veitch,
Oh
um,
yeah, the
just
Veach stuff.
the
Oh
Corbin issue, like
yeah. Oh yeah.
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's fast forward. Let's talk about you. So you check out all these comics. Obviously, like Art Adams is like, legend. Like that's cool to hear that. I've never heard that one being somebody's like first comic, but what in turn kind of like made you want to start drawing? Was it like were you drawing as a kid? Was it a little bit later?
I mean, always drawing as a kid. I think just art in general is one of those things that had always kind of interested me. And our mom was always good about taking us to like museums and libraries and things. As big dinosaur guy, we got always going to look at dinosaur bones and stuff, things like that. So art was always kind of not the only thing that interested me, but it's the thing that always stuck. So going through high school and everything, eventually it's like, well, if there's one thing I want to do, like art is it, and comics was always kind of at the forefront of it, really.
And who would you say like where's like the major influences? Like I know for me, like I didn't start paying attention to creators until a little bit like later in my, obviously I
Mm.
wasn't doing it at 5 when I started comics, but like when did you start paying attention to creators and when did you start kind of following, and those were like the ones that had like the biggest impact on you?
Like the first creator, I guess two creators that I really knew who like kind of their names and who they were would actually be like Bill Watterson with Calvin and Hobbes. So Calvin and Hobbes was
Okay, fair enough.
huge,
Yeah, I
like for me
loved
growing
Calvin
up.
Hobbes.
Yeah, always stack stats. But that's like the first time I'd always be like, oh well, his name's with everything. And then the other one is like Bill Pete, who's like was a Disney animator for like 101 Dalmatians and all the big old school Disney, and he had like a
Mm-hmm.
series of kids books. Like those were always around. First actual comics people, it's probably like the 90s guys like Liefeld and Jim Lee. Like that's probably the first time I correlated like, oh, the names, hey, this guy did X-Force, now he's doing Youngblood, or stuff like that. I knew like, looking through, I knew the characters from Marvel. Like, oh, I know Hulk and Thor and all that. But I didn't really correlate like the creators to those books yet. You're young and you just kind of, so almost like the Image guys are the first ones you like, oh, I know this guy. I know him by name,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably why they sold so much. And
It's also pretty crazy to watch. Like, I just want to mention it because, like you talk about like not knowing creators, right? There was a point where, like in Silver Age, they didn't even credit them.
oh
Like
yeah,
in DC, I won't say Marvel because Marvel from their beginning, well, from the time they changed to actual Marvel comics, I won't go like to their older stuff, but like DC, like I flipped through some of the old ones, like Silver Age, no writer, no artist, like you just there's just no proof of like who did this book anywhere in the book, and like
yeah.
in the 90s is like a complete like in your face, like they were using the creators to sell. Since you called out the Image guys, what were some of your favorites? What, like did you I don't know our age difference, but
I think like the one that I look back on now the most and would actually reread is obvious Savage Dragon. I think
okay, yeah, that's my
like
favorite.
that's the big one.
Mhm.
I really liked Wildcats. Some of Youngblood. Like
Okay.
I could tell pretty early on when Youngblood kind of dropped off a little bit, uh, and it just didn't interest me as much. Like I'd rather go back and read, his X Force run and stuff like that, New Mutants. But I think Wildcats and like Savage Dragon were the two big ones that kind of kept me hooked.
That's also, you just went in order of the ones that have most issues to the ones that start doing less and less too.
Yeah,
So that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah,
Youngblood has like the smallest run. Wildcats, I mean, like Jim Lee kind of took off from that book, but yeah, what Eric Larson has done
yeah,
with that book and still continues to do is just nothing short of like that to me is like that was the dream, that was the mission when they went to Image, do their own thing. And Todd has done what he's done, but like Eric has really fulfilled that promise
yeah.
of like doing what you want, your own creation. So have you real quick before we start talking about your comics, like did you ever have a drop off? Like I never asked this question, but like I know some people like you get to middle school, maybe high school or something, and maybe there's that gap where you stop. Did you ever stop reading comics, or has comics just always been in your life?
I don't think there was like a huge drop off. Like I read a little less for a
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, Luckily, I mean, I have a twin brother, right? So
Yeah.
he never stopped ever. So no matter what, there was always some sort of new comic coming in, And my best friend from school, who we're still friends now, even he always had comics. So like it was always there in our sphere. So even if I wasn't buying some, I was still like reading theirs. So, maybe a little drop, but it never like went away completely.
And when did you decide you wanted to start making comics?
Ooh, man, when? I guess a little bit after high school. Because, I mean, I went to the Kubert school
Okay,
for a
cool.
year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like a little bit before that. I knew I wanted to do art and stuff. And then I was like, well, like, what do I really want to do with it? So then
Mm-hmm.
I went there for a year and then transferred to Art Center out in Pasadena.
So what
So
was your experience like at the Joe Kubert School?
So it was cool. I liked it. I think a lot of it was lost on me. So like my thing when I talk about the Kubert School, it's like I got a lot of really good information But personally, I wasn't a good enough artist to really take that information in, if that makes sense. So I got, I'm in class with Adam Kubert, and he's teaching you like storytelling techniques and camera angles and all this like really really good stuff, right? But then I go home to work on the assignment, and all I can focus on is like I can't get the stupid hand to look right. It's weird because it's an art school, so you're supposed to learn how to draw and become a better artist. But it's almost like if you're good at art, I have a good understanding when you go to the Kubert school, I think you get more out of it. So that was my takeaway. Like I enjoyed the inking classes. I like Kim DeMolder, who inked Swamp Thing and stuff like that, and Kubert and people like that. But I was like, I just can't draw. So that's when I was like, I need to go to like a real just art school and go through all the painting and drawing and color theory and all that stuff. So that's why I transferred. I think there's a lot. It has a lot to offer though. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand when people go and things. For me personally, it just wasn't the right time.
And then okay, so let's fast forward. You went to Joe Kubert school, you chose for another art school, and when do you start making your like own comics? Like, did you do work in any anthologies? Like for me, the first thing I discovered is Dino Beasts, like that bust that's sitting behind your head that I can't stop
Oh
staring
yeah.
at, which is insane, dude. Yeah, that thing's crazy looking. So take me from there, like after art school, and then is there anything in between leading up to Dino Beasts?
There's actually a huge gap where I don't draw.
Okay.
So it's like I'm at art school, but obviously like, the economy's kind of whatever, and then I don't have enough money. So I joined the Air Force.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's yeah, like there. So there's a gap of time. So I leave art school and I go into the Air Force. That way you can finish paying for school and whatever. So while I'm there, I don't really draw for like about 2 years. And then when I'm finally settled and you're training and all whatever's done, then I started like, okay, getting sketchbooks out again. And then I just was hitting my brother up and I was like, hey, I still want to do something. And then he's like, well, we can make a comic book. Like, indie creators were putting out all sorts of stuff now, and it was cheaper to print and whatever. So Dino Beast is like the first thing. It's really the very first comic.
I think that's cool to be able to work with your brother too. Yeah, I mean I remember seeing it, and I just like I love the design of it. Everything about it. It's like dinosaur barbarian type story, which is like right up my alley. Where did the idea for that? I mean, obviously you talked about being a kid and loving dinosaurs. But where did the story kind of come together for that? Did you guys brainstorm on it together? Like, why Dino Beast? And maybe for everybody listening and watching that hasn't checked it out, kind of just like an elevator pitch of the book.
So it's kind of like the idea of again with all those 80s properties, but like take something that's like Conan or a He-Man or something, but just use dinosaur characters, you know, with it, and have it where it's like it's not set on Earth. Or that was always the thing that kind of annoyed us with like 80s things, is be like, oh, it has to be Earth with dinosaur stuff to make sense. Instead, it's just like it's the whole planet is evolved with dinosaur people instead of humans. I mean, it was as simple as that, really. Just kind of mashing things we loved and things we always wanted to see as a kid. I think that's more what it was. And it just, I don't know, it is surprisingly easy to come together for us, at least, because we have the same interest and we grew up together. You know what I mean? So when we're just pitching stuff and they're like, well, hey, how about dinosaurs? Like, yep, that's perfect. Let's do it. Like, okay, well, like, should they be kind of like barbarian type? Like, yeah, okay. It was really natural just to come up with the initial pitch, at least.
So you've done 3 books so far.
Yeah.
Are there plans for more?
Yes, we do have plans for two more, which are going to be a little bit longer, probably. So like the story for four is already flushed out. I haven't started doing thumbnails for it or anything. That's why I just wanted to take like a break after book three for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and draw something else a little. We
For
both kind
sure.
of did, especially because they're over 100 pages long. Like that's a pretty big commitment
Yeah,
to
it's
just.
a thick, it's a good one down right here.
Ooh yeah, the book three.
Yeah, I was upset because by the time I somehow like one, I think one was out of print, for a while, and so there was 2 and 3, and then I think your brother may have sent me 3 because I can't remember who I reached out to about coming out the jail because I
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
I just J Coates is sometimes all I see on there. But yeah, like so real quick before we get into like other projects, everybody listening and watching, you can add on the Dino Beast
yes.
books. So I would make sure when I saw that I added 1 and 2 so that I can get those in print because I had PDFs, but I like to have that book in my hand. So make sure you if back the Kickstarter, make sure you check out those add-ons, you can check out the other stuff. Yeah, I just absolutely love the design of the book, and like you said, it
Well,
is perfect
thanks.
for that era. And who doesn't want to see like dinosaurs as like human barbarian type characters?
Yeah.
I mean, this cover is insane, dude, and just everything. Look at, I mean, for everybody watching, look at this stuff, dude. Like this is just, it blew me away because it's something that you don't see. I think that it kind of gets through the noise of like there's so much comic book content out there, and how do you stand apart? This is how you stand apart, Dino Beast.
Thanks. I mean, I think so, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's a great property. I mean, like the action figures that could come from this. I mean, just looking at that bust,
oh,
imagining like a super articulated figure. I don't know
yeah.
if you guys have talked about trying to get figures done, but that would be something that would be really cool too.
I mean, there's like different things we've kind of talked about in the works. Talked to some different toy makers, local guys, and some other things. My brother was just at PowerCon this weekend, talking to some people. So hopefully we'll get something going soon. Maybe correlate it with the next book.
That would be
Uh,
awesome, dude. And then you also did a book. Was it Ninja 4?
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I missed out on that too. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what was the impetus behind that book? Because that was like was that based on like
So it's loosely based. It's kind of like in the '80s, like the ninja movies. There were like three of them that were like the Sho Kosugi Ninja trilogy.
uh-huh.
So like Ninja 3, The Domination was the last movie. Our idea was like, well, this is like Ninja 4, which is like the follow up movie. So like I based like the main character off of Sho Kosugi and stuff like that. So it was just kind of our fun way to nod because that's one of the things we always rented from like VHS like Blockbuster stores, which I'm not sure we were supposed to be renting that stuff. We were pretty young to be renting
Wow.
violent '80s
Oh, dude, so was
ninja
I.
movies. You know what I mean?
So was I.
But
Yeah.
'80s, early '90s, I don't think people really paid attention to what you were doing. So we were always renting that sort of stuff. American Ninja, like I mean, I still got them on DVD. All those. So it was just kind of a quick, like a shorter book and kind of like a palate cleanser. We're like, hey man, let's do a fun ninja, kind of thing. And I tried to alter my drawing style to make it kind of look like a low budget like VHS version of a comic book. Like try to no, it was fun. And then we reached out to the director and he read it and then he was like, "This is amazing, guys," and
Oh,
stuff,
that's
and gave us
awesome,
like a
dude.
plug for the back cover and
That's
stuff.
pretty sick. That's pretty sick to be able to reach out to the different crew. Yeah, I remember like I just have to say I'm so glad that you guys added those add-ons for the thing to be able to like kind of catch up on all your stuff is pretty awesome. By the way, Galaxy Gods, another great concept. I love the name. Can we let's talk about let's jump into that. Right
Yeah,
now, got 20 days. Everybody listening watching got 20 days left. It's already funded, so don't worry, the book, but it can still use your support. So I'm going to drop the link down below. But James, let's talk about the concepts behind that. Definitely feels like there's Kirby vibes, which who doesn't love Kirby? Um,
yeah,
but a little low down on that book.
yeah. So yeah, definitely Kirby vibes. I had this period where I was rebuying like the old New Gods and Kirby Thors and stuff, like getting the original issues. So I was reading through those, and I also finally found Tom Scioli's Myth of Eight Opus. Like it's his
God, how did
first
you find that?
miniseries.
How did you find that, dude? I can't find
I
that book.
mean, I got shout out to Copacetic Comics in Pittsburgh. He had a set of all five of them still.
I'm jealous.
Somebody told me like he had them or whatever, and I hit him up. So, anyways, so I got those in. So I'm reading all that stuff, and like that was really where I was like, you know what, like my mind just started clicking and I was like, I want to try to do like a more silver age Kirby style superhero type thing. Because I was like, well, I haven't done like an actual superhero comic or even tried. So that was kind of what started getting me going. And I've always loved, Greek myths and obviously the Kirby stuff anyhow. But I was like, okay, I'm going to try my hand at this. And like the initial thing that popped in my head was kind of like, what if like your Asgard or whatever is like a planet, and what if New Genesis and like Apocalypse, what if it was on the same planet? So essentially, like half the planet is like you're good, and half the planet's bad, and this is where all like your cosmic gods and everything come from. So that's kind of like where I started with it. I mean, there's a lot of different things going to happen in the story,
Hmm.
but it's a first issue, so try to drop in the main characters, several plot threads. Really tried to do it kind of like a Kirby book. A little action, a little here, a little palace intrigue, and then you're out. Um, I mean, it is 44 pages, so it's more like a double length, but
And this is all you by yourself, correct?
yeah. So this one's all me. Wrote, draw, colored. My brother has acted kind of as like an editor where I could bounce ideas off of, and proofreading a little bit. And he even colored like 2 pages near the end. Wait, no, 4 pages at the end, just to help me like get it done a little bit quicker. Yeah, it's
I
it's all
noticed the
me on this one.
coloring even is a little bit like harkens back to that aesthetic. I don't want to say like it's colored exactly, but so did you use a different coloring technique on this?
A little bit. So I definitely went with a real limited palette on this one.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I was actually inspired color wise by the Silver Age comics, but also like the He-Man newspaper strips. So if you ever see those, there's a big collection out from Dark Horse. But the coloring in that has a lot of these like muted purples and pinks and things in there. And I really love that color palette. So I try to incorporate that into just your bold, Silver Age Marvel type coloring. Try to weather like I wanted to do it on newsprint, which is crazy expensive. Like it's cheaper to
Isn't
print it on nice paper
isn't
and
that
put
weird?
like a fake newsprint texture to it.
God, dude, it's so
So
weird to me. You know, like
yeah,
why is newspaper? And I think it's at this point, I forgot, I don't know if somebody's told me this or not, but I think it's just because people don't do it as much and not as many printers do it. So that's why it's so expensive. But it's like it's so thin.
yeah,
It's like it's not, but
yeah,
so you are doing it on, it's not gonna, it is gonna be on a textured like that color of newsprint paper, just not the actual texture of the paper is a newsprint, but the paper will look and
yeah. Right.
have
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah. It'll look like it's newsprint, but it'll be like an uncoated like paper that's a little bit better quality.
very cool. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love newsprint. That would have been great if you could have done newsprint, but I get it. It's like to add that extra cost is like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's
you'd rather
crazy.
just put that into like other stuff. What are the overall plans with this series? I know you said it's a first issue. Do you have like a set kind of goal in mind? Are you just going to kind of see where it goes? Because like I don't have to ask you whether it's successful or not, because like you've already now been funded. Obviously, I'm sure you'll have some books that you can sell in the shop, the online shop, where people can order all the rest of your work.
Mhm.
But what are the goals for this series?
So it's I have a like a tight finite story
Mhm.
involved with it, which would be like 4 to 5 issues is what the idea is right now. I'll see if I want to make them longer issues or shorter issues, but I definitely have like a real like a an ending to the story. So it's not like it'll if somebody wants to do it later and whatever, keep going with the story. But I'm just going to do a certain story with these characters in this universe. So right now, yeah, like 4 or 5 issues is the idea. So I have like the next one plotted out, and the end already done. What happens at the end? So now it's just kind of filling in what pieces go where. I mean, this one was going to be a lot longer. I just at one point I was like, you know what? Like it took like a month and a half longer than I thought to make. Which
Mhm.
comics tend to do. And I was like, I'll just put this out and move these plot threads to the next issue.
And this is your first Kickstarter, right? So are there plans to do the rest of the series this way? Are you going to just kind of like, I guess, wait till this is done and see how the whole experience is before you kind of make that decision? Like, what do you think you plan to do with moving forward? Like, how's the experience been with Kickstarter so far for you?
I mean, it's been good so far. I mean, I got funded the first day, but I also had a pretty low funding goal because I was like, I'm just going to do like a small print run and see how the book does. And then if I make enough, I'll just keep bumping the print run up, which I think is a good way to do it for like indie creators, like,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure you're hitting your goals or whatever. So it's been good, and I'll see how it goes. The Kickstarter. I think people understand Kickstarter. It's been around long enough that it's easy for people to go, "Oh, it's a Kickstarter. I can easily just."
Yeah, no, it's great to see like that you got back. Obviously, like I think making sure that thing is funded too. If you can afford to make it a low goal, I think is, especially if it's your first one, I think is super important, right? Do you have any plans for any stretch goals, or are you just simply gonna just do the book as is?
I wasn't going to. Um, I mean, maybe somebody can convince me to change my mind. I don't know. I feel like I'm a comic creator, and I
Mhm.
just want to make comics. Like I'm not too interested in doing t-shirts or pins or cards and stuff like that to throw in.
Mhm.
It's good. It works for other people, and if people are into that stuff. I only added two original drawing levels, which sold right away. Just because I'm worried about the time, like to start working on the next comic and another project I'm already drawing. I have a day job, so I'm also trying to balance the time issue with making comics.
I get it.
Um,
I get it. I'm not making comics, but making the comic channel is balancing with the work life. I totally hear what you're saying, dude. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean, look, the comic should be enough for anybody to check out. I think it's an awesome looking book. Everything you've done so far is really awesome. I'm looking forward to actually getting the rest of Dino Beasts in print. What else do you have in the works?
so I mean, really, like, so I've already started thumbnailing the next Galaxy Gods issue. Um, so kind of getting going, planning on that. And like I said, we're gonna start planning out the next Dino Beast. I did just kind of drop a post about a possible Stardust thing we've been working on. The Fletcher Hanks. I think people know who Stardust is by now.
Yes.
So that's something that was in the works a little bit before Galaxy Gods, and I kind of put on the back burner. So those things, and then that's pretty much it that I can like talk about. There's one thing we're kind of pitching around to some publishers and things that probably not going to talk about right now. But if that gets going, we'll have some updates for anyone interested in that sort of stuff. But other than that, just working on comics, and I will be at one show the beginning of next year, that Indie Creator Comic Con in New Haven,
I
which
really
looks
hope I
pretty
can
great.
go. Yeah. I really
Um,
hope I can go. It's just like it's the plane ticket, it's the hotel, like to
oh
be
yeah,
able to
yeah.
afford to go all the way out there from LA.
Oh
Uh
yeah, you're even farther than me. Like I'm in Iowa, and it's already like, oh, it's a couple day journey out there. Yeah, LA is really.
yeah, and it's like then like I have work Monday and like can I do like a quick turnaround? Like I don't want to go in this fly and fly out in the same day.
Yeah,
But I mean look, there's so many people that are going to be a part of that. So shout out to that. I know there's going to be a Kickstarter, I think, to help kind of I'm assuming to help fund it. I haven't talked to the guys. I mean, I know the guys doing it, Matt Sardo, Rocco Jerome's a part of it as well.
yeah,
And a bunch of artists that I'm like a huge I'm fans of all of them. I wish I
yeah,
can make it happen. Hope maybe I can make it a work expense for my job. I don't know. I'll be like, oh, I'm scouting talent. uh but no, that's a great thing to see. I hope maybe if that works we can get one a little closer to us, on the
mm,
West Coast. That would
yeah.
be nice. But yeah, no, I just a huge fan of your work, dude. I'm very stoked for everything you got in the works. Is there anything you would ever, I mean, so many people are doing like bootlegs of stuff or like remixes of stuff. Have you ever, is that something you've ever thought? I'm just curious because I think like I work in my mind like what you could do with your style that would be kind of awesome. Have you ever thought about doing anything like that? Just like a short little one-off?
I have, and it always comes down to time. Like I had like the idea to do like a little mini bootleg, obviously of like a He-Man type thing.
Hmm.
Uh, at one point I got all these like the original like well not the original but like the Valiant Turok comics
Hmm.
for like $1 each or whatever, and I was like, man, I want to take these and I just want to redraw Turok himself and the dinosaurs and then just paste them into these actual books like on the computer, just those two items.
That would be
So like I
awesome.
really want to do that. uh like I, it's one of those things you have so many ideas to do and then you just don't have enough time. It always kind of like, well, maybe I'll work on my own property instead. But I do have a list of like things, so I'm hoping to, if I get the time, to do some little bootlegs that I could just hand out at shows or whatever. I guess the one thing I am doing right now is I'm doing a Ninja Turtles bootleg that I've been serializing on my Patreon. So it's kind of my ultimate pitch of what I would do with a Ninja Turtles kind of comic.
You gotta get those
Um,
printed, man. I didn't even know. I gotta get on your Patreon. I gotta see that. That's awesome.
yeah, I posted a couple little pics here or there on the Instagram. I'm trying to post like little some panels there and stuff just so people. But once I get like a good chunk of that done, I'm gonna try to take that around to shows and stuff.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
dude. That's awesome. Okay, before I let you go, I want to ask, like, is there anything like what are you reading right now? What kind of creators are kind of, get your creative juices kind of like excited? You know what I mean? Like what are you? Because I know like as a creator, as an artist, like you always can kind of take stuff from other people. I'm not saying you are like taking their stuff, but like what
Right.
helps inspire you and kind of keeps you going?
Ooh, man. Well, I mean, other than the obvious stuff, like I won't, obviously, you're talking like Kirby and all that stuff, like Bill Everett comics and things like that, that kind of played into like Galaxy Gods.
Hmm.
But other than that, like as far as indie guys go, like Brian McRae does a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
He does those pinup books, but he's got some really good comics.
Hmm.
So I love his work. Um, Pat Kane, I think he just did his new Kickstarter for his new comic. He has some really great stuff. Rorg of Blood Swamp might be one people know. His like kind of crazy barbarian.
Sounds very familiar to me. I wonder if I might have
His
that
stuff is
actually.
good. Off like that's not an action comic. Like I love like Nate McDonough's work, and he's always posting like his stories on Instagram um, about his time trying to buy comics and being like a comic seller and stuff. And his new comic is really great. Off the top of my head, those three. Other than you got the Copra, things like that that I feel like everybody kind of knows about at this point, or you
Hmm.
should know about
They
stuff
should know,
like that.
yeah.
Probably those right now.
All right, well, awesome, dude. Before you get out of here, can you just share with everybody where they can find you online? I'm going to drop all those links down below as well.
Sure. So I'm obviously on Instagram at just JA Coates, or if you search James Coates, I'm sure I come up right away. Our main website is dinobeasts.com, where you can buy, comics and t-shirts and kind of see, updates on some of that stuff. Um, like I said, I have a Patreon page, which you can link to from the Instagram. I mean, that's kind of the easiest way for everybody to see what I'm doing. I try to post a couple times a week, and really then the Kickstarter. If you just search Galaxy Gods, it's the first thing that pops up. It's right there. Yeah, I
Oh
think that's
yeah,
it.
dude. All right, dude. Hell yeah. Well, I'm like I said, I'm going to drop them down below. Everybody get out there, back the Kickstarter. I'm like I said, I've been a fan of yours for a while, so I'm really happy we're able to get this done. And I would absolutely love to do this with you again sometime in the future.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been great.
All right, man. Have a good one.